And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. It is a Wednesday night, winter-like Wednesday night for once here. A little snow falling, chilly temperatures, but it is feeling like winter high school sports. Normally, I'm very fortunate to have Jeff Gress across the way, but he's also a teacher over at Newman Catholic, and sometimes have to have some work get in the way, and I'm very fortunate when I do need a special guest co-host. He's been very good with this time, the head hockey coach at Wausau West High School, BJ Brandt. And BJ, glad to have you back.
Thanks for having me, Chad. And you know me, I love coming on and talking hockey, even though I'm sprinkling a little basketball too.
Yeah, tonight we'll have a little bit of basketball, but we're going to spend a lot of time talking hockey because as we finished up last time around, at the end it said, hey, there was a lot of stuff we never really got to last time around. And this week you've been making the media rounds, and I said it to you last night. Before the show, I said last night. I get onto YouTube, and all of a sudden it gives me suggestions, and there I see your name on the Wisconsin Prep Hockey Podcast, and I tune in, and there was, as you said, some good questions, and I thought some interesting answers that I want to kind of delve a little deeper into this evening as well. But we also do have a pair of special guests, and tonight we are flipping the coach and the player guest around because of practice schedules. Normally, we have our coach guest in the first hour and then our player guest in the second hour. But here tonight, in the first hour, coming up in about 15 to 17 minutes or so, we'll have our student-athlete guest for this week from D.C. Everest High School, their outstanding junior goaltender, Griffin Bunnell. And he's helped the Evergreens to a terrific start so far this season. And they're on a win streak as well. And they're right there in the mix in the Wisconsin Valley Conference in hockey. So Griffin Bunnell joining us at approximately 6:25 tonight. And then coming up in the second hour, it'll be my Wausau West Winter Coaches Night here. And fortunately, both the boys hockey and the boys basketball teams are both doing very well so far this year. And we'll talk to the head boys basketball coach at Wausau West. We'll be talking to Nate Lemons coming up at 7:25 this evening as well. So we have our guests, and we'll have plenty of talk about high school sports here for the next 2 hours on the Big High School Sports Show. I know that a lot of folks want to hear about tomorrow night's game. We're going to save it because I want to hold the audience. Because if they tuned in to want to hear your breakdown on tomorrow night's Wausau West Stevens Point game, we're going to make them hang around for a while because I don't want to go right into that because there is a lot of other stuff to talk about. Let's talk generally since the last time we saw, because we saw you early in the season. And since then, I know you don't keep track of win streaks or the way that your team has been going. At least that's what you said last night. You said somebody tells you about win streaks. Who tells you about win streaks?
You usually do, and a couple other people do, and I don't find a ton of merit in it. So it's what's, to quote Kevin Grundy, it's good to look out the windshield sometime and just keep looking about what's at, and that's kind of the message we had today at practice with the guys is, obviously we know what's in front of us right now for tomorrow, but, what we've done in the past has got us to this point, and hopefully we can continue to grow on
It's
that.
actually a wonderful way to think because, if you don't know what the win streak is, as you said, it's done. It's in the past. You have to take care of business the next time around. But I will let the people know that basically you have a 7-game win streak. You've won 10 of your last 11, and I think that's around the same time that you were last with us. What has been the keys to a successful run? You had what are you here before the Marathon Cup, or was it Marathon Cup week?
Okay, yeah, because we had Tyler Bars on right before we played Mosinee in the Marathon Cup.
So you had the Marathon Cup, and then you were able to beat Mosinee and Everest, both in pretty tight games, and then get some time off after the third round game against EMU, then have the tournament in Green Bay, and then some more time off before getting back into action. You've been getting better. I think, again, the Marathon Cup games were not dominant. The Green Bay games, you had perhaps one you'd like to have back against Springs, but then played 2 really good games. And then since then, really have been building block by block. And I've said that to you. It's been a building process. What has been some of the keys for this team in terms of being consistently able to win hockey games?
Well, I think it started with the Fondy Springs game. I mean, obviously that's the last time we've lost. But when you look at the streak, as I've got it up on the page right now, we had a very honest film session after the Fondy Springs game, and we sat in the lobby and watched the good, the bad, and the ugly all together, and we let the players talk and the coaches talked, and sometimes as a coach you have a routine and you get into that routine from year to year and you have the things that you want to do, but the reality of it is our job is to make sure that the players are doing their best, and what we were doing wasn't not working. It just wasn't working the way that we wanted it to, and part of this group was to give them some ownership of it, and we were able to take some of our, as coaches, some of the things that we would do for them, we gave it to them to do, and the responsibility to in game preparation, the responsibility to make sure that we understand what the opponent's going to do against us, and I think the guys have invested in that a little bit, and that little bit of knowledge has paid off for them. And I hope that obviously it's a change that we made as coaches. I think they recognize it a little bit and the ownership that goes with it, and it's certainly changed the way that we prepare and play the game.
I got to ask you about the one of the changes that occurred after the Springs game that was noticed when you played Notre Dame Academy and started this stretch. Your guy started sitting on the bench. And again, it's just one of those things where you notice something different. And you see so many of the teams standing on the bench and they're, into it and pounding on the boards and all that. And then after the Springs game, the next day, we come out there, and I told you one of the parents came by in the first intermission and said, well, maybe I knew something about it. I said, why are they sitting on the bench? I said, well, I'm not really too sure. I had mentioned that I noticed that the Detroit Catholic team that was part of that event all sat on the bench, but it was not that. What happened in terms of that little change, and is there any correlation with the way the team played since then?
Well, I mean, from an outsider in, I think you'd attribute something to it. The guys, again, when you, as a coach, you got to go with what buttons you're pushing with the guys to make sure that they're prepared and to make sure that they're playing well. And they said, Coach, we're going to sit this game. And I said to them, I said, I'll be honest, and this is to the leadership group. I just said, I'm not a fan of it, but if this is what you guys want, go do it. Because historically, when we've sat, we didn't have the energy, we didn't have the in the game, we didn't have that.
Put your legs up.
Yeah, I mean, I worried about that,
right.
Because it was something new. But the reality was, it made our line changes better. The guys knew what it was easier to communicate and talk to them because they were engaged in the game, but also could have an ear towards the coaches. I can't. The line changes itself have been phenomenal. I mean, the guys know there's a space. We'd always struggle with when you're going off the ice. Where in the bench do you go? Because they jump the boards. We don't open the doors, and it's cleared that up. So our line changes have been cleaner. They've been able to communicate effectively, and it stinks. Like when we were in Chippewa, we as coaches we couldn't see because there was a little platform that you were down beneath, so you had the guys sitting basically your eye levels with the guys when they're sitting.
Sure.
So 4 of the 6 goals we scored that night I didn't see. and as a coach sometimes that's hard, but somebody saw it, right? So then it gets you engaged. You're talking about the game. Hey, what happened there? Who did what? What's this look like? So I think it's allowed us to be a little more focused and pointed with what we're doing on the bench, and whether or not it has anything to do with the win streak, it's probably open for debate, but I like the focus that we have mentally when we're in that state.
As you look at the Wisconsin Valley Conference, and again, we'll talk about the game tomorrow, but Stevens Point's been consistently excellent all season long. Your team has been on a very significant role now for a number of games. DC Everest is on, and we'll hear from Griffin Bonnell about in a few minutes about how their team is playing. Even EMU's won a lot more games this season than they have in the past. And I mean, when you went to Wisconsin Rapids, it was definitely not an easy game. What's your take as the season has progressed in your conference?
Well, I think the teams are better. I mean, I think that's the reality. If you look at the conference from top to bottom from a year ago, I think the conference is better. And I think that, EMU winning 8 games so far. They're 8-11, and that's through 19 games. They got 5 games left in the regular season. I think that's the most significant amount of wins they've had in the last few years. You look at Everest, they're on their own 7-game win streak right now, just looking at and that's coming off a 4-game losing streak. So they've been able to bounce back, and part of that is scheduling. Part of that is you got to play well. It doesn't matter who you play. You still have to play the game well, and they are obviously playing well after beating Rapids 4-1 last week Thursday, and then they go to Marshfield tomorrow. But I think if you look at the conference, clearly you've got Spash at the top, and they've been playing extremely well over this last couple week period, and obviously, we want to be a part of that and maybe go the other direction with it. But they've been consistent. They're the number 1 team in the state. They're undefeated for a reason.
Part of the reason I asked about the conference first is because then I want to kind of piggyback that with the sectional, because obviously part of the deal with hockey is you have to go in there and sell yourselves, and part of that selling is saying the conference is better. Obviously, it's a little different nowadays because there's so many non-conference games and so many games within a sectional, but at the same time, in recent years, we have not seen the Wisconsin Valley Conference have a top seed. And now when you look at things, and again, there's a lot to play for in the next few weeks before you actually get to that seeding situation, but you're in a situation where if your team continues to play like it has, if Stevens Point continues to play like it has, it could be a Wisconsin Valley Conference tilt to it. DC Everest, if they're able to find a way to get a signature win, because they still have some chances against teams like yourself and Stevens Point. That even the sense is that we've always seen a lot of 8-9 games for these DC Everest kind of teams. Maybe they can move up a little bit. Do you think that others are seeing that this conference is a little bit better than it's been?
Well, I think it's how we perform against the big rivers, because we do get the opportunity to play them a lot, and it's Big Rivers, Wisconsin Valley Conference, and Superior. Yeah. And you look at the way the Superior's built their schedule. They've tried to build, to make sure they've sprinkled in some of those opponents too, so that they can be seeded appropriately and seeded well. I think that a lot of it has to do with how the teams do against the other conference. When you look at whoever their conference champion is going to be, how did the Valley teams do against them? And that kind of puts us in a slot, if you will, where and how to gauge things throughout, because we don't have all teams head to head. So you have to look at comparables. You have to look at common opponents. You got to look at score. And score is sometimes a little trivial because, there's situations, there's power plays, there's penalty kills, there's injured players, there's different goalies. Those things get to be a little bit trivial. But the head to head part, obviously, in the seeding process is super important. And I value first common opponents. So if there isn't a head-to-head matchup, both of them have played a particular team. How did those games go? Were they both wins? Is there another common opponent? So you just have to, as a coach, I said it on the Prep Hockey podcast, I don't ever want to go away from this.
Right.
2 reasons. 1, I think we get it right. And 2, I love the process as a coach to go in and defend your team and sell your team to why you should be a particular spot, because you do the homework. You look at all the layers that it happens. I've got my huge spreadsheet that I go in and you figure those things out. I love that process, and I don't think you get that from the computer. You could ask Nate when he comes in. I don't think the seating's been right for them. Right. I just don't think the formula can work what humans can do face to face, or at least through a Zoom call.
I remember back when Jeff Ruking was coaching the Warriors on the boys' side, and I remember did a game the night before they had their seating meeting. He showed this incredibly thick binder. The information that he had prepared for that meeting back when basketball still did the meetings, and you had to basically sell your team. It definitely is it's very, very different. I think you're exactly right. I think that for the most part, because you do have, you can't really hide. It's, if you're not straight with the other people, they can see it. You can try to, spin it any way you want, but I imagine that you can see through anybody that is kind of trying to spin, don't you?
Well, I'll say this. Our sectional, whether it was, when we had the old sectional of Eagle River and Lakeland and all them, to the new section now that we've gone 2 divisions, everybody's valued head to head. And I think regardless of, there's some anomalies out there when a team, gets a team later in the season that maybe they shouldn't have. And you just kind of, you go through the process of seeding that head-to-head is just the way that our group has gone. And part of that is doing your homework. And I think as long as all of the coaches do their homework, then the seeding process actually goes pretty smooth. In this process, there's challenges. There's different ways to finalize the seeding. But I think as a group, the coaches do a better job. When you look at the way other sports have gone with the computers and even I've gone to the point where with the Coaches Association, we go over and look at other places. How do they do it? Michigan has their own formula, and it's a very interesting formula. And some of the coaches love it, some of the coaches don't. I still think that if the Michigan coaches met, they'd get it right because they do their homework and they would figure it out, because there's a little bit different because there's 3 divisions over there versus our 2 here. But again, I will as long as I'm coaching, I think we should always do it either through Zoom or whatever. But as coaches, I'm not a fan of the formulas.
And the thing about your bracket now is that notice last night. There was still some games going despite some of the postponements, including your game, to see Hudson lose to New Richmond. And now those New Richmond and Hudson are atop the conference standings together, and they're both in your bracket because New Richmond was moved up in the success ratio. There's a lot still to play for. That makes it really interesting, and I do think that, again, it's going to be a lot of fun over the next couple weeks, even before the real fun begins with that massive bracket.
Well, and part of that, the process, too, is where is that team in the conference? Who's the conference champion? Who? How do they perform in the conference? Those are all things that as coaches you look at to see, okay, where do I fit? How do we get this right? I think in the end, everybody wants that to make sure that the seeding is correct, because that gives us the best playoffs. That gives us the best opportunity to have the best teams at the state tournament and put on a really good show for the kids.
Absolutely. So there's still plenty of other interesting questions I want to ask you, because based on a couple things that you were talking about last night, I found very interesting that we're going to talk about a little bit later on in the program. But coming up in a minute, we're going to be joined by our student-athlete guest for this week, somebody that I'm sure keeps an eye on that bracket as well, and the Wisconsin Valley Conference. From the DC Everest Evergreens, their junior goaltender, Griffin Bunnell. We'll have Griffin Bunnell coming up. This is the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO. On Thursday night, it's a high school hockey showdown as the Wausau West Warriors, ranked number 6 in the state, travel to Stevens Point to take on the number 1 ranked Panthers. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with a special early pregame at 6:35 and the opening face-off at 7 p.m. Wausau West Hockey on 98.9 WXCO is brought to you by the Cloverbell Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Coast to Coast Marketing, and the Wausau West Hockey Booster Club. It's Wausau West at Stevens Point in high school hockey, Thursday night, starting at 6:35 on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Tonight, joined by BJ Brandt as my normal co-host for the winter sports season, Jeff Gress. Some teaching duties over at Newman Catholic. But again, tonight we are flipping our student athlete and our coach guest because of some practice schedules. I'm very happy that our student athlete could join us a little early tonight from DC Everest Junior, Griffin Bunnell. Griffin, thank you for coming on by.
Yeah, thanks, Chad.
Absolutely. And number one was talking to the coach about how his team has been doing pretty well recently, but your team has been doing very well recently as well. 7 wins in a row. As you look at where your team is right now, I imagine there's a lot of confidence going on over a little south of here.
Yeah, it's just absolutely great when we can get a good amount of wins going together, and especially at this time of year, it's good for us to go on that win streak, and as we're heading towards playoffs, we can keep it going hopefully, and it's just nice to have that confidence around this time of the year.
I'll talk more about this season in just a few moments, but I want to kind of go back because when I had Coach Vance Lyke on a couple of weeks ago, talked a little bit about the process, and you're part of that process where there were a lot of younger players that have kind of grown together. And going back the last 2, 3, and I mean even 4 years, I think a couple of your seniors were part of this growing process. I remember Thomas Passano was a freshman who was a very impressive freshman. Now he's already a senior. It feels like, snap of a finger. The process. There's obviously some growing pains. There were some seasons where it was maybe a little bit more difficult, but it does look like each of these steps has gone up. You've won more games. You've gone deeper in the playoffs. You had a good playoff win on the road last year. Could you talk about what the mindset was at the beginning? Because you started as a freshman. You have had a lot of experience in this growing. What has this process been like, and how good does it feel to see the fruits of a lot of hard work?
Yeah, so it's been interesting. So when I came in freshman year, we were a really young team, a lot of sophomores, a lot of freshmen. And as we've progressed, I mean, we're 2 years into the process now. I'm a junior. We got some good seniors, and we're a bit of an older team, more mature team. And I think you see that through our record. We came in, we didn't really know what to expect, but I think we've developed really well, and we're going to continue to develop, which is great. But it's turned out good, and I like where we're going. And if we can just keep up the hard work, I think it's going to turn into good things.
Got a question, BJ?
Yeah, I mean, talk about you're a goaltender. Talk about when you were a kid. Like, did you skate out? What made you decide that you wanted to stand in the net? And just talk about what the difference is, obviously, player goaltender as a youth kid.
Yeah, so early in youth, squirts, peewees, I did both. I'd skate out in half the games, and I played goalie, and then because Zach, also my age, we'd split goalie and we'd skate out too. But as we got older, got into Bantams, we'd switch off playing goalie, and we just sit on the bench as a goalie, so we became full-time in Bantams. So as you get older, you just kind of progress, and you learn that you like playing it. So we switched fully into it, and it's a lot different.
How much of it was you liked it, and how much of it was that you're good at it?
I mean, going into it as a little kid, I mean, I liked it. I just loved doing it, and I think that's what matters most, is that going into it, I just was like, I tried it a few times. I was like, man, I really like this, and I just wanted to keep doing it more and more.
How old were you when you first, number one, started playing hockey, and first time you got all the pads on as a goaltender?
I've been skating since I was pretty little. I remember my dad got me out onto the ice as a little kid, and that's great. I'm happy he did that for me, and I really appreciate what he's done for me. But I played a little bit of goalie as I was a squirt, and I just kept playing more and more as I got older until we got to where we are now, and that's all I'm doing.
What's your favorite part about being a goaltender?
Honestly, I think that you have the ability to change the tides of the game, and it's a lot of responsibility, but I like that, and knowing that I can really help our team out, give us some energy. And I think when we all know that, we can all kind of like work together as a group, and it gives us a lot of energy. I like that I can do that for our team.
I remember you as a freshman, a very good goaltender. I mean, as a young player, you really came out and did a nice job very quickly at the varsity level. But at the same time, you've continued to take strides forward. How would you say, what would be the areas that you've most improved on since you first started as a varsity player up to the point you are right now?
I think that just going into it as a freshman, you're not 100% sure what to expect. I mean, it's a big jump to come into high school hockey and to start playing right away. And, I mean, I think starting off, I just wasn't super confident. I would always be super nervous going into games, and I just didn't really know how to handle that. But as I've gotten older these next 2 years, I just became more confident, and I know that I'm capable of doing the best I can be on the ice. And I think just that's something that's helped me a lot, is maturity throughout these past few years.
We're talking to Griffin Bonnell, goaltender for the DC Everest Evergreens, our student-athlete guest this week on the Big High School Sports Show, presented by K5 Construction here on 98.9 WXCO. You mentioned your goaltending compatriot, Zach May, right?
Yes.
Zach May. And the thing is, he's done a really nice job and he's had opportunities.
Yeah.
What's it like when you have, two guys that we've talked about this in the past where it's, you can't switch lines. You're out there. And obviously you've had a wonderful almost 3 years. What's it like, having, a really good, I apologize if Zach doesn't want to be called the backup, but at the same time, the other goaltender. Because what's the relationship like between goaltenders?
I think it's really great, and having both of us there, and we're both very capable of playing at a high level, which is great. Not even just for us, but for coaches too. They know that whoever's in the net, we got a good chance. And I think the best part about it is that we really just push each other to get better. And since we're both so good, so competitive, in my opinion, that we can just push each other. And I think it's great that we can have that kind of competition, that friendly competition. But at the end of the day, it improves both of us, and I think that's great that we can both go in the net, and we both know we're capable of playing at that high level.
So, with goalie, sometimes when kids are hockey goalies, they play other sports, but they typically trend to not play like catcher, or maybe sometimes they do, or goalie in lacrosse. What other sports do you play, and what's your role in those sports?
So right now, I play golf in the spring. So, I mean, that is what it is. But I did play baseball in youth, and I was a catcher, which is funny. But, yeah, so I did that. But then they're both in the spring, and I decided I kind of wanted to stick with golf. I really like it. So
nothing wrong with it. I tell you, it's amazing the number of student athletes that come in here that after a long winter sports season, that in a sense, and again, it's nothing, and I know golf coaches probably just say, oh no, it doesn't seem as intense.
It's not. No.
And after a long, intense winter, and the winter sports season does seem to go very long, I imagine number one, it's just nice to get out of a ice rink after a while. And number two, again, maybe a chance for a little bit of a mental break, because I know that anybody that is at the level that you are in terms of your hockey, there's a lot outside the season as well. Do you use it as maybe a chance to be competitive, but yet not maybe at the same level where you are able to take maybe a tinge of a mental break?
Yeah, I mean, I've always thought it's great to just, I think no matter what it is, like hockey, but all things involved, sometimes you just need a break from whatever you're doing, like not just hockey, I think with everything. So it's nice to get that little break in. And of course, we still have summer practices. We still have summer lifting, fall practices, and all that, which I think is great. It gives us a good tune-up. But I like playing golf in the spring. And
How good are you? How good are you?
I'm all right. I'm not the best, not the worst. So I'll take it, I guess.
Well, Chad, in the spring, the golf season is like a spring hockey season, because there's a lot of guys throughout the Valley Conference that play golf.
Oh yeah,
So they compete against each other in the arena and the rink in the winter, and then they're playing golf with each other. Because the way it works in the golf world is you play with kids from other schools. You don't play with your teammates, so you get to know other kids like outside of the rink. Like that's one of the things when I was coaching golf. I coached with Matt Johnson for a lot of years.
Oh yeah.
And it was fun to watch kids who competed against each other in the winter season, whether it was basketball or hockey, and then come together and get to know each other a little bit, because you got to play golf. That's 9 holes, 18 holes. Like you get to know somebody a little bit as you play, as you go from match to match to match.
I forgot you had coached that, so I wasn't me slighting on you and Matt, definitely for the golf coaching. Are you involved in outside season hockey? What's your hockey like outside of the high school season?
Yeah, so obviously we have those team practices, but I also do wheel in the fall, which is Wisconsin Elite Hockey League. It's just a fall league that comes from 6 different regions of the state, I believe, and they put together a team, and you just play against each other, and it's good competition. It's good to help tune up for the season, and I know a lot of guys that do it around here, so I think that's a good way to stay tuned up for the season.
Yeah, talk about that though, because in that moment too, you get to play with guys from other teams. Like our region, Chad, is Region 2, which spans all the way from Eagle River down to Rapid. So that's kind of the pool of kids. Talk about what that's like to play with those guys, and then come November get to play against them.
Yeah, so actually a lot of that wheel team is from Wisconsin Valley. So it's a lot of us just combined together in the same team, which is super interesting because we play each other twice a year during the regular season, and it's super high compete level, and we love to beat each other then. But you come together, you get to know the guys a little better, and you get to know them off the ice, and you can still not like them when you're playing them in the regular season, but then you get to learn that they're great guys, and you love playing with them, and it's just a super good experience.
And it gives you something to, when you stuff somebody during the regular season, if you know them, it's even better, isn't it?
Yeah, you get to have a good laugh out there. Yeah, it's fun.
Stepping away again from the ice for a moment, what's your favorite class in school?
Oh, man. Well, we just started the new semester, but I love finance class. It's probably my favorite class.
Seems like good to be involved in numbers for your goaltender. A lot of numbers involved.
Yeah.
Are you involved in DECA?
I do DECA. I would say I'm a little more involved in FBLA, but I do some of the DECA competitions.
I wanted to ask you because you said finance, and I've never said this on the air. When I went to Everest, I was in DECA, and we went to a state competition, and I won a finance and credit state championship. Nobody knew that. I've actually done something. I don't just talk about it.
We're learning new things.
I know.
This is good.
It's nice because since you go to Everest and I went to Everest, and again, I don't say that very often when I'm around you, but I know that you still have plenty of time left, before you graduate. But are you hoping to continue your education along with athletics at the next level?
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, it's hard to know what's in store for the future, and I'm kind of just playing it by ear. And if an opportunity arises itself, that'd be great. But I'm kind of just starting to think about what I want to do after high school and what's the right path for me. But if an opportunity arises, it arises. So I'm kind of just playing it by ear.
Have you ever had a dream of a certain job? And it can be with the skates on. Do you have dreams of hockey glory? Do you have dreams of maybe some other profession that would interest you being in the future?
I mean, I love business, so like that route, I would like to do something business-wise, but also it'd be great to keep the skates on at a higher level. But again, it's hard to know what's in store for you, and I'm kind of just waiting for the opportunity to arise itself.
Well, talk a little bit about the balance, because obviously the winter season is hard. How do you balance the academics, the athletics, and the social life? Because you guys have friends and you want to be places. How do you balance that?
I'd say I like to just keep school at school. I try to get all my work done. You got study halls, you got ELTs, or you just have time to work on homework. So I've gotten better at just trying to balance that all at school, so I have time just for hockey. Like if we have a game, it's hard to do homework on a game night, especially if you're far away from home.
Buses are not conducive to homework?
No, not a lot of bouncing while you're driving. But yeah, I just try and keep that all at school. If I can get it done at school, that's great. And then it leaves me more time to help do stuff with my friends. And then we have practice, obviously. But as I've gone, it was hard as I was a younger high school kid. But as I've gotten older, I've kind of got a better balance and feel for balancing all that stuff. So,
again, we're talking to Griffin Bunnell from the DC Everest Evergreens, our student-athlete guest this week on the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction. This season, Griffin's doing pretty darn good. 11-3 record, goals against average of 1.72, .937 save percentage, 3 shutouts. Let's talk a little bit about your team, because obviously you got a pretty good viewpoint of what's going on the ice between the pipes. Talk about maybe some of the other guys who are leaders on your team. Who have been some of the key cogs, whether on the forward line or the defense, that's helped DC Everest off to such a good start this year?
Yeah, obviously I think we got some great skaters, because I love to see those statistics of mine, but it all comes from what they do for me, and they help me out tremendously. I really like what our defense are doing. We got a super mature group of defensemen, 3 juniors, 3 seniors. They've been great. They all do their job every time they're on the ice. And then obviously we got some goal scorers too, where we've been able to bury the puck, which helps a lot. Obviously you got Thomas. He's really been doing good. Cole, he's been standing out this year. So not even them, but everyone on the team has their roles, and they all do their jobs great when they're on the ice, which I love to watch. I mean, it's just so fun to watch when everyone's doing what they're supposed to. And I think we've done a great job of that this year.
Going back real fast, but I want to go back to a game last year in the playoffs when you went on the road and won in overtime at Hobbs.
It was regular time.
Yeah, right at the end.
Yep.
You're right. Sometimes I got that confused and mentioned that the coach as well. But what did that mean to take that step in the playoffs, to go on the bus, go to Eau Claire, win that hockey game? Obviously, the next one was a hard one, but against a team that ultimately made it to the state tournament, so obviously a very good hockey team. But for a group that, as I said earlier, had been growing, what did that win mean?
It was probably one of the greatest feelings all year. I mean, for all of us, it's been not even since we were in high school, but it's been a little bit since we've won a playoff game till that year. And so it was just great to get that feeling, and I think we played really well. We had a super good team game all around, and Eau Claire North, they were pretty good. So it was super good for us to go in there and get a win. It felt great for all of us. I think it boosted our confidence. So that was super nice to go in there and get a good team win.
What's your favorite goal lead or your least favorite goal lead? Because as a goalie, like obviously the bigger the better for you. You get to relax a little bit. But like obviously most games are tight. Where do you feel most comfortable when your team's in the lead?
I mean, obviously it's better if we can be up by more, but I like playing under those pressure situations. So even if we're only up by one, I'd love to be up by more, but we're doing the best that we can, and I don't know. Anytime we can be playing up is good, so I like that.
What area do you yourself and the team as a whole have to take steps forward the rest of this season as you get towards, you're still right in the mix in the Valley, and of course the playoffs coming? What are the areas, number one, for yourself and number two for your team that you have to be better at in order to continue to take those strides?
Well, I think this goes for me and all of us. I think it's just staying calm. I mean, we're going to play some good teams coming up, West and Spash, and we're just going to have to stay calm, and we might get scored on, and it is what it is, but we just got to keep rallying back. And I think the most important part is we got to feed off each other's energy. And if we can have more energy, I think that's going to help us tremendously in this stretch.
I've been preparing for my broadcast tomorrow night with West and Stevens Point, and I was looking at Stevens Point, a lot of their numbers. And the lowest number of goals they scored this season was against Everest, the 3-0 game that you guys played earlier. What was the key for Everest to hold a team that's been getting double-figure goals a number of times? What was the key that night to holding Stevens Point to 3?
Yeah, I mean, obviously they're a super good team, number one in the state, undefeated, but I think the key was we played a super good defensive zone. I mean, the first period, we kept a lot of their shots to the outside, which was super good, and I was like, wow, you guys are playing really good. I was like super proud of our defense. It felt great to watch them play like that, and I was like, I just thought we played super good in the defensive zone. And they're fast. They're the fastest team we've probably played against, but they move the puck so well, and we were able to hold our own in the defensive zone, and so I thought that was really good.
And you had that game, and then the Marathon Cup game against West, 4-2. So again, another tight game. Do you feel like your team is close? That you do have an opportunity with the second go around? And again, you don't have to listen to when he talks about West, but you got Stevens Point coming to Greenheck Turner. You guys go over to Marathon Park. Do you feel like your team is close and can, if you put it together, be able to win those games?
I think that we're at the level where we can compete with anyone, and obviously those are two super solid teams that we play coming up. But I think that if we just do our jobs and do our roles and we know what we're good at, that any given night, anything can happen. I always say that. I was like, anything can happen any given night, and I try and keep that mentality.
You sound like a coach. Way too much like a coach. Do you have a favorite rival? Is there a game that gets the juice going?
I always just feel a little fire when I go out and play every night, but obviously there's a few. I mean, in the Valley, it's always a good competition, and I don't know. There's a lot of those games you just want to go out and win, and you got that fire. So
That
it's
sounds like a
good.
coach too. They're all the
Yeah,
same.
there's
You
a
know?
very, I mean, I'm sitting here. I think it makes it a little bit different. So we'll go off the high school topic. So goaltenders always seem to have like a favorite NHL or college goalie that they model after. Who's your person? Who do you like as an NHL goalie that you're like, I really admire that guy for how he plays?
I've always loved Marc-Andre Fleury.
I knew you were going to say
since
that.
I was a kid.
This reminds me of
Like,
MAF, you know?
his play style, I admire that. He makes saves that you didn't think were possible. So I just think that's super cool, and I've always loved what he's done. So he's my favorite. And then college level, I've been watching Trey Augustine for Michigan State, and obviously he played on the USA World Junior team. So those are probably my two.
What's your favorite NHL team?
The Islanders.
The Islanders.
Yeah.
That was unexpected.
That was unexpected. Why the Isles?
Well, so I used to be a Minnesota fan, and then when I was a little kid, and then for whatever reason, I loved Cal Clutterbuck, one of their players, and he moved to the Islanders when I was like 9 years old, so I switched over. But since I've got there, like I really like Ilya Sorokin. He's their goalie, so I've kind of just fallen in love with the.
That's actually interesting because when I was a kid, my favorite team was the Rangers. And then John Van Beesbrook left for Florida. And then they became my favorite team.
Yep.
So, again, if you have a favorite player and he goes off somewhere else, it's not just about the laundry. It's about the people in the jersey. I think that's actually a good thing.
Well, mine was the North Stars, and then they moved to Dallas.
You can't go to Dallas.
And I couldn't follow with them. And then when we had kids, we picked Austin Matthews was drafted by the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we, as a family, we decided we're going to cheer for the Maple Leafs. So it's not a great time to always be a Maple Leafs fan, but that's the team we root for in our house.
It makes it worthwhile when your team does win. And for the Isles, they got a legendary goaltender as their coach now, so Patrick Waugh. So as in our final few minutes, I guess before I get towards my end, anything else you want to ask? Because we're getting towards the end.
No, I mean, you could talk just a little bit about, like Chad mentioned, the process that you've gone through from a freshman to a junior. What obviously size as a goaltender, you've grown a lot over those couple years. Where do you feel you've improved the most in those 2 years, just in your skill set as a goalie?
Well, I mean, every day at practice, we have an alumni from 2019, I believe it was, came back, and he's now the goalie coach. He's been trying super hard to learn it, and he's done a great job. And so every day we're just working on positioning and getting our angles down because you got to be in the right spot. And so I feel like I've improved tremendously on that, getting in the right spot. And I think that just my movements have crisped up a lot and my angles have gotten a lot better. And I can honestly say that for every goalie that's in our goalie room. I think that we've all gotten so much better at positioning, and it's just super nice that he came back and helped us out with that.
Is this an exciting time of year? I mean, because as I said earlier, the winter sports season, whether it's basketball, whether it's wrestling, whether it's hockey, it's a long season. You have to go, basically you start before Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving weekend's usually kind of a kickoff, and then you go through the holidays and you go through call it the dog days of winter. As you get to the middle part of January, you can kind of see the playoffs in the horizon. Do you feel it? Does it start to build?
Yeah, I mean, as you get closer to playoffs, and I'm sure it'll grow in the next few weeks, you just get a little more excited because those are the games that matter most. I mean, all games matter, but when it comes time for playoffs, you really want to win, and it just gives you that extra push. So I think it's super exciting going into playoffs. And I mean, I just want to imagine what the seniors are feeling. I mean, no, it's going to be their last ride. They're going to get a huge burst of energy. Mm-hmm. So I think that as we just get closer and closer to playoffs, the energy gets growing, which is really good.
Does winning breed winning? Have you felt that in this stretch?
Yeah, I think we feed off a lot of energy. Like as we get wins, like obviously the energy is going to be higher in the locker room after a win than a loss. And I think just when you have a lot of winning going on, it's nice to get some energy moving. We hope to use that going forward in our upcoming games. Anything else you want to ask Griffin before I give my final question?
No, they've got a heck of a stretch here. They got 6 games, and obviously wish them the best of the luck, and we'll see them in February.
Enjoy Marshfield.
All right.
That's one of my least favorite places to go.
Might be a little chilly, but we're ready for it.
It wasn't as cold this year.
That's good.
I know. It was weird. I don't know. So Marshfield and Mosinee, those are the two worst. But I know we normally ask this question to a senior, but you've had experience. You're a 3-year varsity player. You played it's really amazing how many games you already played, how many minutes you've had between the pipes. Based on what you've learned, what piece of advice would you give a freshman just coming into the DC Everest program that you've learned over the last 2.5 years as a member of the Evergreen varsity?
Well, one thing I'd tell them just going forward is that confidence is the most important thing when you're in the net, because coming in as a freshman, it's the most nerve-wracking thing you ever, and even it doesn't really matter, but when you make that first start, it's the most nerve-wracking thing you've ever done. And so I'd just say, be confident, you're capable of what you're doing, and we've practiced for this forever, so I think that's important. But also I'd say I can't believe my junior season's already winding down. It feels like it's flown by. And just to think about that, I'm trying not to think about it, but just to think after this year I only have one more left is crazy. So just enjoy every moment while you have it.
I'm going to give you some scary little piece of experience that you learn when you get as old as I am. You think it's going fast now. You wait till you get older. It goes really, 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 really fast. But no, it's been I've enjoyed watching you develop the last 3 years. It's been a lot of fun watching you and your teammates grow as a group as well. Yeah, best of luck against the Tigers, and best of luck throughout the rest of the season.
Thanks, Chad.
Absolutely. Griffin Bunnell from the DC Everest Evergreens. We'll take a time out, come back with more. It is the Big High School Sports Show presented by K5 Construction on 98.9 WXCO.
It was a rough week on the hardwood for unbeatens and top-ranked teams. I'm Travis Wilson, and this is a WisSports.net Minute brought to you by Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells. More high school sports news after this. You may have heard of Just a Game Fieldhouse in Wisconsin Dells, one of the country's premier destinations for youth sports and events, but did you know that Just a Game does so much more? Just a Game also delivers end-to-end apparel, equipment, and event solutions with their state-of-the-art screen printing and embroidery facility that can help with branding for your team and business items, including uniforms, apparel, and more. Just a Game also offers digital services that include a cashless digital platform and event live streaming. Just a Game has also added a second brand new facility in Reedsburg. Find more information at justagame.com. We are down to just 6 unbeaten teams remaining in boys basketball in Wisconsin, as 8 squads suffered their first defeat last week, including 4 top-ranked teams. It started on Friday night when Division IV top-ranked and defending state champion Mineral Point played a thriller with Southwestern as the teams went back and forth down the stretch. Everett Dressler buried a three-pointer with 14 seconds remaining to put Southwestern ahead, and they'd hold on for a 79-77 victory. Saturday saw 3 of the top-ranked teams go down at the Lacrosse Center as part of the Midwest Players Classic. Division II number 1 Mount Horeb led perennial Minnesota powerhouse Caledonia at halftime, only to see things slip away in a 70-59 defeat. Later in the day, in one of the most anticipated games of the event, Breck, Minnesota outlasted D1 number 1 Wisconsin Lutheran 67-64 in overtime. In a flyweight conference game Saturday afternoon at Laconia High School, the host Spartans took down Division V top-ranked Sheboygan Lutheran 73-66 behind 27 points from Cash Farrell and 26 from Ethan Pino. The 6 remaining unbeaten teams in boys basketball are Kettle Moraine, Racine Lutheran, Bonduel, Partyville, North Crawford, and Royal. Weather wiped out most of Tuesday's schedule, so be sure to pay close attention to reschedules this week. This has been a WisSports.net Minute. Check us out online at WisSports.net.
And welcome back. Yeah. Apologies, number 1. I hope that we didn't get cut off at the end of our student-athlete interview at the end of the last hour. But due to technical, not difficulties, but again, Civic Media, of course, bringing live coverage, as I mentioned earlier today on my program, of the State of the State address, but it overrode our log here. And unfortunately, we got knocked off, and it's been a little bit difficult being a network-wide event to get us back on. So, again, for those of you who have hung out and waited, including BJ Brandt, I'm glad you have. And we're going to put this all up on as our podcast at the end of the show as well. So again, we will make sure that everybody gets the complete show on our podcast. But again, apologies for the issues on a night where there is the state of the state, but also our program here tonight. All right, it's like a long rain delay. Get back into it here, and again, thanks to Griffin Bunnell, and you've obviously had a chance to see him in action so many times. Very nice young man. Very nice to have him in here tonight.
Yeah, I mean, somebody who means a lot to the Everest program right now. He's played well, and certainly he's somebody that is having a successful season and is a big part of the success that the Evergreens are having. When you take a look at their season, they're on a 7-game win streak right now. Looking ahead, they've got 6 games remaining in the regular season for them to finish off a regular season and then go into the postseason. Coach Van Slyke, somebody who's been in this game for a long time, understands the process. You heard Griffin talk about the process a little bit there, where he was, the long game process. He talked about from a freshman all the way up to where he's at now in the middle to the end of his junior year, and he's just, they're having a really good season and looking forward to continuing that process as the playoffs go along.
We're going to take a quick timeout and then come back and talk to Nate Lemons, coming up, the Wausau West boys basketball coach, as we continue here on the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. On Friday night, the Wausau West High School boys basketball team travels north to take on the Merrill Blue Jays in a Wisconsin Valley Conference matchup. Hear all the exciting action live on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app, starting with the pregame show at 7 and the opening tip at 7:15. Wausau West High School boys basketball on WXCO is brought to you by the Cloverbell Credit Union, Red Robin Restaurants, Sun Printing, the Wausau West Athletic Department, Coast to Coast Marketing. It's Wausau West at Merrill in high school boys basketball. Friday night, 7 o'clock for the pregame, 7:15 for the opening tip. On your home for high school sports, 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. And welcome back, Big High School Sports Show, 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With me, Jay Brandt, I'm Chad Holmes, and very happy to welcome back into the studio. Got my Wausau West winter guys here, and it's been a good winter so far. Nate Lemons, head boys basketball coach of the Wausau West Warriors. Coach, thanks again for joining us.
Yeah, glad to be here.
I got to admit, I'm a little discombobulated right now. It's one of those nights. I know you guys have been through one of these probably over the years. Let me find a way to get rid of the bumper music here at some point here.
This is about as good of a duo, I would say, that they've had on this radio show.
Oh, I don't know. This is...
Chad, you don't know this, but Nate and I taught a class together for an entire school year. It was intermediate algebra, and honestly, it was probably some of the most fun we've had. Like, I know fun that I've had teaching, because we got to feed off each other a little bit in the winter sports season, and we had some good kids that were good-hearted with math, and boy, we had a great time.
Well, I need a good time here for the next few minutes here, I tell you. It's like, oh, man.
I think, though, that is one thing that I think at Wausau West, like, I've been so fortunate with, is that you have that, I guess, connection and that friendship with the other coaches. It's not like I'm in my sport and my zone and I'm only worried about basketball. Like, I bounce, ideas off of BJ, or, there's a good connection with our coaching staff. We're all rooting for each other, and it's been, over 12 years now. It's been great just getting to know guys. We've had kind of, on the boys' end, we've had a pretty consistent, coaching staff as far as guys that have been around, and it's a lot of fun, especially when you can have that, that type of communication and talk about things, whether it be life, whether it be basketball, whether it be hockey, coaching in general. Our sports are different, but a lot of the things we teach and a lot of things we emphasize are the same. So it's always great when you can do that, and it's been a lot of fun.
12 years, man. And the thing about it is, for both you guys, I mean, how many years now is this?
This is 11.
11. I mean, we don't see it as much in high school athletics. I mean, there's a lot going on, and it seems like a lot more change with the coaching staffs and head coaches. I mean, there's a lot put on the plate. I think it's very obvious for a lot of people that follow it. What's kept you going? Because obviously you got to love this job because you put so much time into it. There's so many layers to what you do. What is it that has really kept you going for 12 years? And at Wausau, I think you kind of touched on it with Wausau West, but boy, I mean, I don't think people realize the amount of weight that goes on the shoulders for people that run programs, because it's not just the varsity, it's a whole program. What are the biggest reasons that have kept you in this with a young family and everything else in your life?
Well, I think one thing is just the people at West. I've been so fortunate, for 12 years to be a part of that building. We have a great staff. We have a great coaching staff. We have great administration. So I think as the further you get into this and you start running into some of the unfortunate situations that we deal with, when you see the backing, when you see the support, not just from our admin, but from our teaching staff and things like that, that's the kind of stuff that you're like, I'm not really worried right now about, we could go here with, uber amount of talent or anything like that. It's about where you feel appreciated and where you can coach the way you want to coach, and that fits your personality. And that's never been a question for me at Wausau West. I've always been allowed to coach the way I want to coach, and on obviously the kids. I mean, I've been so blessed with the character of kids that we've had. Obviously, you're going to have kids that don't agree with your philosophy or, don't mesh or whatever, but we've had that at such a minimal rate. We've just had great kids throughout our program, and that's honestly what makes it. The wins and losses are great. We sit up at night about the losses. The wins, it's like, okay, when you move on, you're thinking about the next thing. We take the losses a lot harder than the kids do. But
I've noticed that in the show. When I have a coach on after a Tuesday night loss, they're still feeling it. The kids, they get back into school, back into their lives, and they're ready for the next challenge.
Yeah, but I just think, just all the way through the program, it just keeps you going when you get to coach great kids that are great human beings. And then you like, for example, I just got 2 kids engaged that I coached, and another one that's going to get married here in the fall. So those are the things now. It's kind of coming full circle for me that you're now seeing those players that you coach now move on with their lives, and they're raising families, or they're getting married, or they're off getting a big job, and you hear about it. Those are the things that I think probably keep you connected and keep you wanting to keep going.
Think about where you were year one and where you are now. What's your greatest growth moment as a coach through that 12-year period?
Probably perspective, just keeping things in perspective. I think as a young coach, you live play by play. I still am intense, but I was probably to a point where it was like, holy man, like, you watch yourself now, and it's like, you probably realize as a coach, you're like, man, no wonder why the kids are turning it over. You got them so nervous because you're all excited. So I think that perspective on, and keeping things simple. I think you, as a young coach, you come in with all these ideas and all these things that you think are going to be magic potion to get kids to put the ball in the hoop, or to this new exciting, set that you think is going to score every time. And the longer you get into it, you're back to, I coach my son's 4th grade team, and we do some of the same stuff at the varsity level. And me and BJ have talked about it. Just the simple things that take you so far that it's harder to do than what people realize, because you always are intrigued by all the stuff that's out there. But year one especially, just keeping it simple and keeping it in perspective.
let's talk about this year. And obviously, it's been a very interesting start, a very good start. You've had a trip to Florida. You've had a lot going on up to this point. But one thing that's stood out when I've talked to you is that you've been really impressed with your guys. That in a sense they've grown in a way that, in terms of toughness, in terms of being able to finish games, that maybe was even a little surprising to you, and that has to be a wonderful thing.
Well, yeah, I think anytime a team surprises you with things that you
in a positive
were going to
way,
be a struggle.
Yeah.
But just, I mean, we've defended beyond what I thought we were going to, and we just talked about that tonight, especially rebounding the basketball. You know, we weren't great offensively against Marshfield, but we allowed 0 offensive rebounds against Marshfield, who has us, I think, about 6 inches at each position. So just our grit, the way we rebounded against East and kept them off the glass and kept them on the perimeter. Even in a game like, you know, Everest, where we weren't good offensively, defensively, you know, we kept ourselves around after we turned off Felch's water a little bit. But I just thought we were going to have to score the ball better than what we are, because I think we have more in the tank offensively and can, I think, be a little bit better offensively and more consistent. But defensively, we have just been a very, very difficult team to score on, and I thought that was going to be something that we were going to have to, I guess, emphasize a little bit more than right now. That's kind of what we're hanging our hat on.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that growth, because as you know, Nate and I have talked a lot over the years, and we've shared, you know, 5 a.m. practices with our groups, and as a coach, you always want other teams to say, man, that was tough to play against you. Talk about how this group has changed from a year ago, from 2 years ago. Some of these guys have significant experience, and some guys don't, and how you're able to get them to buy in, because everybody loves to score 90 points a game, but they don't maybe necessarily understand how important it is to hold other teams to a certain level and how hard it is to play defense.
Yeah, and you know, kind of piggybacking off of your question about year one, I think that's one thing that we've always done pretty well, is we've always just said, you know what, we're going to control what we can control. We're rarely ever the most talented team or the most athletic team. But man, you're really going to have to work to outwork us and outcompete us and be tougher than us. And I think that team, I thought this year going into it, that was going to be what maybe my greatest challenge of all the teams I've coached, is like, man, we're going to have to just figure some things out with this team of how do we get them tough and grit. And we really haven't. I mean, I think we've just been the tougher team, which has allowed us to have the success that we've had. But I think understanding who you are is so important. And our kids have done that really, really well. They don't try to be anybody they're not. And I think that's so important in having a successful season, because when you have to convince kids, like, hey, we're not a 90-point team. I mean, if the gym's empty, I don't know if we can score 90. And getting them to buy into that, to where we have to share the bat. And that's what this team has done. They've just said, this is who we are. They can score the basketball, but they can't do so in the same way that some of these teams can, that have just guys that individually can break you down or individually can just make plays. We have kids that can play, but they have to share the basketball. The ball has to move. We have to get them in positions where they can attack the correct way, and a way to play that plays to their strengths. And I think that's what this team has done so well. Even when we, you know, struggled offensively, like Everest, we took 22 more shots than they did. You know, that's just, we're getting the shots we want. We're giving ourselves second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth chances.
Yeah.
They're just not going in. And that's something that you can say, okay, well, we still put ourselves in a position. And the same with Marshfield. I mean, they made 13 threes against us, but I thought defensively, you know, we gave up 50 points off of 13
5
threes.
twos.
You know, and so we didn't shoot the ball well.
Right.
And so that's, I think, the struggle with us right now is when it's not clicking early, get out of the quicksand, because we just keep working harder and harder, but we're continuing to settle instead of, we're going to get the ball here and it's going to just keep building, and we're going to get ourselves out of this little rut. We've stayed in offensive ruts in some of these games where it's just a struggle.
Again, we're talking to Nate Lemons, head boys basketball coach at Wausau West, here on 98.9 WXCO. You mentioned a couple of times the DC Everest game and the Marshfield game. I got to talk about the really big games that you won. Mm-hmm. I mean, go to Stevens Point and beat the Panthers for the first time in a long time. Go to Wausau East and be able to go home on a Friday night with a W. Those had to have been just really... What was the feeling for the guys? Because obviously those were significant, especially the Spash game early, where you talked about maybe you had some questions early. You had a game against Eau Claire North that you probably thought you should have won, but you bounced right back with that Stevens Point game. Those were, for lack of a better term, gut check games, weren't they?
Yeah, and I think you just touched on it. How we bounced back, but before each one of those games, we lost a game that we felt like the Eau Claire North, we were in control, and we felt we got on our heels and we just kind of gave it away. And then the Everest game, we just felt like we didn't do things, and we just didn't play a good game on our home floor with the ability to beat a quality team. But then we responded the next game. So we lose to Eau Claire North, we come back, we beat Spash on their floor. We lose a tough one to Everest, and we come back and we go to East and we beat them. And East was probably our best game all year as far as how we played. Defensively, we were so good. You know, Bennett's ability to keep Jesse in front, he's a really good basketball player. And then our bigs' ability to keep, you know, Kaylee and those guys on the perimeter and just not let them, when you watch them on film, how many second chance opportunities they get. And when they're scoring, then they can set up their press. We just didn't allow them to set up things the way they wanted. And then offensively, we were so efficient in that game. Those are the responses that you're looking for from a team. You know, you lose a tough game and you come back the next and it's gone, and you're focused and you come out and perform after losing a tough game. Those are the things as a coach for me. It's like, you know, you can really win with those guys.
Efficient is a word that is not exciting, but I do think it says a lot about a number of your guys. I think that when you look at Griffin Lang, you just... He I don't know if floats is the word, but he moves around in such a way where he makes it he's so smooth out there. And I think you can say that about a number of your guys, that they're very efficient in what they do. You look at Bennett, who continues to be just a consistent presence. Sometimes I think Karji may be a little more we can call exciting at times, because he's got some great talent. But if you look at Nico, I mean, just does things really well. You give him the ball, he executes well. Miles, I mean, you just keep going down the list. Efficient is a really good word to describe a lot of these guys, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think it's efficient in their role. You know, and Miles has a role, and he's efficient in it. Nico has a role, and he's efficient in it. And those guys staying in their lanes, accepting that, embracing that, has allowed us to be efficient. You know, to talk about Griff, that kid, he's like a 35-year-old in a 18-year-old body. I mean, he thinks the game to a very high level. I mean, he sees things and makes plays and understands the game at a level that not a lot of high school kids see. And the same thing, we're constantly on him of like, come on, man, be assertive, but that's just how he plays the game. And so I think as he is progressed as a sophomore, you know, he played as a freshman for us, junior. I've had to kind of tell myself, like, let him be who he is. And because I was always like, come on, you got to, you know, play harder. It seems like sometimes like he's like, man, you're taking a break. He's so analytical of the game and always thinking about what could be happening, that at times I've bogged him down, because I'm trying to make him be more assertive or more up-tempo than I think what he wants to do. And so I've really had to just say, Griff is Griff. He knows what he's doing. Let Griff be Griff. And he communicates. We have really good conversations. But he's a unique player. I'll use that word.
When I watch him, it's almost like you can see, like if you were at the chalkboard, you know, because he would always probably move exactly the way it would be designed. He knows exactly where to be. He knows exactly where he needs to be. And then, you know, as you design it, you execute it to put it in the hole, and he's going to put it in the hole. I mean, he looks like that type. It's like sometimes there's some guys that are a bit more, you know, crazy when it comes to him. They get the job done. He just looks like, hey, this is the way it's going to get done, and he's going to get it done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's been truly a pleasure to coach, and obviously you talk about great kid. I mean, I don't know. They don't make too many of them like Griffin. And you could go down the list with that with our senior class as far as you can talk about 5 kids. Couldn't ask for 5 better seniors. Kids that have just led by example. We have some vocal leaders. Just a good mix of kids that have really, really just been a really good leadership example for our program.
Talk a little bit about the Florida trip. I mean, you guys got to go down, enjoy some sunshine and basketball, and I'm sure a lot of other things. There's probably more than basketball with that trip. Talk about that trip and what it meant for you guys.
Yeah, and you know, BJ, I don't know how you feel about and I don't know if hockey's increased games, but I'm so not for 24 games, you know. So the season gets long, so it feels like if you don't do anything during Christmas, that you get just jammed. And so, what a great trip! And again, it's easy to take trips like this when you have great kids that you turn loose and you don't feel like, you know, you're going to be getting a phone call or things like that, and they're going to represent your program. A little more interesting than the last time we went down. We got delayed 13 hours, so we had to reroute flights, and our parents did a great job of rebooking our flights. So we get there at about 1:30 a.m. You have to play the team that ended up winning it. We want another shot at them, so we might go to New York. But and then just, you know, you play a game a day, and then the kids are free to go to the resort, go to Universal. You can wake up early in the morning, so it's kind of been a thing now. We did it the last time we went down there, and this year too, where we all wake up. So because you're at the resort, you get early access to Universal. So we all wake up, coaches everything, and we go and do all the rides, the roller coasters.
No lines, huh?
Yeah, no lines, and the coaches, and we go and we do it as a team, and then the kids are off just doing whatever. And it's just a great experience. The families come down. You know, my family went down there, so it's just a really great way to you're still getting basketball games in. You know, you're still competing and focusing on getting better, but it's in a much more relaxed fashion and just allowing yourselves to kind of letting them be kids, but yet at the same time building, you know, that culture of your basketball program.
Well, and that you said it best. I mean, right now with the way the schedule is, you have to do something over the holiday break, because otherwise you're playing, you know, 14 games in the month, 15 games in the month of January. You know, and it's a great trip for you guys to be able to get away a little bit. Like, we take ours to Green Bay. We don't go to Florida. There's not a Green Bay, Florida, but maybe we'll find one.
Chaperone for you next time.
So, but it's fun to see you guys enjoy yourself, and obviously you were successful down there, which is a big part of it too.
Yeah, we were successful the last time we were there, and you know, I'd love to have another shot. That was another game that we went cold offensively, but just, you know, how the kids battled down there. But I think more importantly down there, when you go on a trip, and it's just so I don't know what the word is. It's just so satisfying as a coach when you can go down there and you literally are not thinking about anything. You know, the kids are texting you like, "Hey, I'm going here. I'm going here. Okay," and you can just be with your team and just be enjoying the fact that we have a group of guys that are blessed enough to play basketball. And we are fortunate enough from a booster club standpoint that we have the funds to go down there, and just giving kids an experience that they'll remember, you know, forever.
Let's talk about your conference. Going into the year, it looked like it was going to be a loaded conference, and it is a loaded conference. And the thing is, people knocking each other off. I mean, we mentioned your games. I mean, it's just a really fun conference this year, isn't it? I guess from the outside. I don't know how much inside, but it's as good as it's been in a while, hasn't it? Isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And when you have a team like, you know, the level of Marshfield, and then you stack, you know, teams like Spash and us and Everest and East, you know, with the talent that they have, and Everest is only going to get more talented with Cohen coming back. So, and I don't know why everyone's sleeping on Merrill, but that they have played teams so well this year, and Troy's done a good job of getting those kids to play hard. When you watch them on film, they scare you because they play so hard, and they play together, and they move the basketball. So it's every night it's a test, and every night if you're not performing at the level you need to, it doesn't matter if you're home or away, you're going to come out not real happy about the performance.
When you look at where your team is, and we talked the last time you played about, you know, the 24 games. You got 11 games left in like a little more than a month. there's a lot on the plate still to go. What are the areas you still have to take those strides with? I think talking to you that starts with an O to begin with, but there's so much still to go, and it's really amazing that it feels like we're deeper into the season, but you're just basically about halfway through your games.
Yeah, and I think that's what bothers me the most about the 24 games is that the longer I coach, it's a balance. If my first 4 or 5 years, I would be okay. Sunday night we're gonna. And I just think high school kids, they burn out a little quicker. They lose that interest. So it's that balance of keeping the fire going, keeping the mojo going, that intensity. We practice hard. Mm-hmm. So keeping that intensity, and then when you have games stacked like that, sometimes as a coach you don't feel like you can really work on some of the things to the level in which you want to work on them. So that's the challenge. And offensively, I think the biggest thing is guys are gonna shoot the ball better than what they are.
Sure.
I've been happy with our shot selection. I've been happy with the way the ball is moving. But again, I think if we can put a little more pressure on the rim with whether it be some of our cutting action or whether it be with our ability to just put the ball on the floor, our willingness to put the ball on the floor, I think that could get us maybe a little bit more, to the free throw line, or that could get us a little bit more at the rim. Sometimes I feel we're a little bit content as an offense. We start settling from the perimeter, and then when it's not going, that's where I talk about the quicksand. We're just trying harder and harder. I got the next one. Let's get a couple at the rim. Let's get a high-low action, things like that. Maybe we've moved away from that we were doing a little bit more efficiently to start the season.
We were talking about the hockey still doing the coaches getting together, and I think we wanted to kind of get a feel. Do you think that the Valley being, I think, at a higher level this year, you're going to get that respect from the computer? Do you trust the computer?
No.
I guess because I wanted to ask you about that, because in listening to BJ, he says, we can go in there and we can go right down the line and say this, and this. You guys don't have that opportunity. Is that something that I guess generally you're feeling about that?
Yeah. I don't know how I feel one way or the other. I felt like when we did a coaches meeting, I'm not for these big sectionals. Because then you get conferences pinned against conferences, and I don't think people vote appropriately. I've always been someone that says, I'm going to vote to where I feel teams are. It's the fair way to go. We've moved away from that. Now we vote to either get our conference stacked, or we think our conference is better than this conference. And then the computer, there's no rhyme or reason. They don't give us the formula. They don't tell us the weighted amounts to what's weighted, and so then the seedings come out, and it's like, well, head-to-head obviously isn't a huge thing,
if it anything.
And so I guess I don't really like the computer. The only thing the computer does is it saves me an hour or 2 hour drive to go to a seeding meeting. But at least at the seeding meetings, you could look people in the eye and say, well, we beat you, or no, you're right, we didn't beat you, and you can start stacking it together. And I felt like there was a little more accurate interpretation of the sectional. But again, I'm not a huge fan of 4 teams for Division I. I think that's a joke.
It is.
We used to have 8 teams, and we used to have our sectionals and demographics of the state. But we're running into a lot of, competitive balance and all this stuff, and we don't have a system to do competitive balance. I mean, we can say that teams are better in the southeast part of the state or the Fox Valley, whatever. The fact of the matter is when teams are good, they rise and they get through their sectional and they win state championships, and it doesn't matter what their sectional looked like. When Spash was winning their state championships, the Valley still thought they were better than us. So that stuff frustrates me, but ultimately, what are you going to do about it? So you just go and you try to control what you can control. We got to win basketball games. We got to beat people. We got to go play a tough schedule, even though that doesn't seem to matter anymore either. But it does get us ready for the playoffs, and I think we've played a tough enough schedule that when we do go up against quality opponents, we've been there. We've seen that athleticism. We've seen that speed. So we're ready for those types of things.
One of the things that as a coach, as you age in this game, whether you're head coach, assistant coach, or combined years, right? We've been in this for a really long time. Is getting involved with your coaches association. Is that something that because obviously when you and I complain about the things that we can't control, we try to find a way maybe we can't control it. Is that as you've gotten into this business, have you found yourself maybe more involved in the Coaches Association or just maybe a little more interest in some of those things to have a little bit of say in some of the outcomes that maybe we didn't like?
Yeah, I mean, I haven't run for any positions, but I mean, I've coached the All-Star game a number of times. I've done clinics and stuff for the WBCA, and I'm always part of the emails of voting and sharing the surveys and things like that. But ultimately, some of the things that I think are our biggest gripes or our biggest setbacks from a basketball standpoint, from the WBCA we talk about and we express, but ultimately they fall in the hands of someone else. So I don't know if that was a setup question.
Well, no.
There's a lot of knowing looks here, I think.
Well, I think all of the coaches associations feel the same way. I mean, I think we try to guide our sport to the best that we can because we know what our kids want and we know what our kids need and the experiences that they want and what they need for their high school athletic experience. But ultimately, we're not in control. I mean, the WIA ultimately makes a decision, whether that's from the board of directors or the liaison or whatever it may be. But I know that I can speak from my experience as the president. We've had a really good relationship. It hasn't always been good. I mean, it's this ebbs and flows as people come through and change positions. But I can, having an outsider watching your computer rankings and watching some of that stuff, totally understand the conference alignment because we're a little bit in it now on our side with the Big Rivers and you look at it and you just hope when guys go to the meeting that they're doing the right thing, as you would say, for the right team to get everything right. And I think on the hockey side it's a little bit easier because we don't have 200 plus teams. We've got 86 for there's obviously more than 200 in basketball, but those little things that people don't think about that fall on a head coach's plate and things that keep us up at night.
When I think some of the things that bother me is the rich history of the Wisconsin Valley, and I understand that enrollments change and things like that, but we were talking the other day of it used to be you had 16 conference games and then you played 4 non-conference. Well, you talk about the environment, the high school environment to a conference game compared to a non-conference game. Well, now next year we will have the same amount of non-conference games as we do conference games because Merrill will be out. We'll play. Chad, what do we play? We'll play 10. No, we'll have 14 non-conference and 10 conference games. I think and so, my thing is then where do we go? What are we thinking about? Where West is headed, the demographics. Will we ever, will the consolidation happen again? Or will we botch that again? I don't know. But things that bother me too about just the WIA or basketball in general is I grew up watching the state tournament. And what the state tournament was when there was 8 Division I teams to what the state tournament is now, they can say they sell the same amount of tickets, but the venue, the atmosphere, it is different. It is a different vibe. It is a different feel. We continue to get closer to spring breaks. So now you've got these teams that have just made this historic run, and half their town is on spring break. I just think there's somewhat easy solutions and planning that could take place that would allow us to keep the atmosphere of high school basketball, because I think that's ultimately what makes high school basketball great. Is it's your community, and high school sports, high school hockey. When my kids are asking, "Hey, coach, can we go early practice so we can go to the hockey game?" Like, heck yeah, let's move our practice. Let's make sure that we're supporting our community, and ultimately that's what high school sports is. And it's turned into, I don't know if more games means more kids are going to get scholarships, which that ain't happening. I don't know what the rationale is, because if you truly understand player development, if you truly understand building teams, practice is the most important element. And when you flood the games, I'm sorry, but to a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid, he's just thinking, it's just another game. And then you put club sports onto it. I mean, how many games before these kids start losing that competitive edge or that ability to really just hone in on, all right, I got to really focus. This is my one, instead of, I got another one tomorrow. I got another one Saturday. That stuff bothers me.
No, and that's something I've noticed over the 12 years, that the atmosphere, the community aspect of your program is important to you. Right from the very beginning. I mean, that is something where you want people to say, "Hey, come on down. Let's see the the Warriors in action. Let's support these kids and what they do, and I think that is important. And we only have a few minutes left. I wanted to ask you because I think the game on Friday, the game against Merrill, another instance where it's going to be more than a basketball game. We're going to be putting something together that's important to the Merrill, obviously, because they started this kind of game every year, but it's very important to the Wausau West basketball community as well. And could you talk a little bit about that? And also, I guess, generally about, again, it's more than just, I say this all the time, I don't want to do a game where nobody's listening.
Yeah.
It's not just to hear my voice. And I think I get that sense from you, that it's not just about being out there coaching and having a game and nobody cares about it. It should be important to the Wausau West community and the families and everybody around, and even more than that.
Yeah. I got a story about that in a second, but yeah, the West game at Merrill, and Troy Pieper deserves all the credit. I've communicated a little bit, but he's done all the legwork on getting this set up for Josie and for Ava, and two kids that are struggling right now with some things that kids shouldn't have to struggle with, and it's unfortunate. And obviously Ava is near and dear to our heart because Kip Downing, a really good friend of mine, and was an assistant coach, and just, I mean, you talk about a guy that wears Warrior pride, and just how great of a friend he's been, and how much he's done for me in the 12 years as a assistant basketball coach and as a good friend. We get to hopefully help them, and I hope we get a lot of people out and we can raise some money to help these girls kind of overcome this and get their lives back to normal. Because we all have kids, and we can't imagine how that would feel if that would happen for us. So it's a great cause. I'm hoping that we raise a lot of money and we can get these girls moving in the right direction. I know the one is down in I think it's Georgia at a specialty place that hopefully is going to have her walking and getting on with her career and her high school career, and then hopefully we can get Ava figured out and get her going back to doing the things that she loves and being able to enjoy her life.
You said you have a story? You got about 2 minutes to go here.
Yeah, just a basketball story. So I coached with Tom Diener when I was down in Milwaukee, but one thing that resonates with me is I was talking to Drake and Travis Diener, and we were talking about high school sports and college, and they said, honestly, we never thought about playing college basketball. We thought about how good we could make Fond du Lac basketball. That's all we thought about. We grew up thinking about Fond du Lac. We grew up thinking, and we just played because we wanted to play for Fond du Lac. And then, it got to our senior year, and now all of a sudden it's like, oh, and then I went to college. And then I got to college, and I wanted to be the best DePaul player, the best Marquette player. And I think that's missing. I think kids don't live in the moment. I think kids set their goal of like, I'm gonna go Division II, or I'm gonna go Division I, and they chase things where it's like, if you just focused on what you can control right now, and you put everything into it, the rest will fall into it. And that's a really hard thing to get kids to understand now, because there's so much pressure, so much hype of, I tell kids, do you realize how good you have to be to be Division III, to play Division III? I mean, these are all state kids. Like, go to a game and watch these kids play. I think kids struggle with that. Now they're just so focused on the next thing, instead of just be the best Warrior basketball player you can be, or the best Warrior hockey player you can be. And you'd be amazed at how much you just, all of a sudden, things will fall into your lap because you're controlling what you can control.
We could keep going for another hour, but Nate Lemons, thank you. We'll see you Friday in Merrill. BJ, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow in Stevens Point. And thank you all for joining us here on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand